Fine. Good morning, everyone. This is Aiman speaking. I guess you can see me in this video. Give me a second as I get set up, and then we'll get started on this morning's ZBrush live stream. Okay. Interesting. My video seems to have disappeared, so I'm going to see if I can bring that back. Oh, that's gone. Alright, here we go, back at it. I'm using this thing called OBS, which is really fun to show you guys because it does this infinity mirror effect to do this stream. And what's cool about OBS is that I can stream out directly to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube all at the same time. Alright, so this looks fine. Lower the camera a bit. Alright, so for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Aiman. I am a 3D artist in Los Angeles, and for the past 4 years or so, I've been doing a lot of 3D printing. So you can see some of the projects I've worked on here. 3D printing for stop motion animation, large-scale sculpture, even launching my own toy line, some costume stuff. So you can find out more about me at aiman3d.com, and you can check out all my 3D print and 3D print related work. I do a lot of other stuff too, animation, VFX, games, but the stream I try to keep more about 3D printing because I try to keep it about a specific topic, which is taking ideas to reality. So you can check out some of my stuff here. There's little fungusaurs I designed, which is a toy line I'm launching with my wife in 2 weeks in DesignerCon. And costumes and all sorts of stuff, little outfits for my corgi. Alright, so that's that. If you want to see some of my previous streams, you can go to pixelogic.com, ZBrush Live Presenters, and scroll down to Aiman Akhtar, and you can check out all my past broadcasts and schedules. Let me test the stream to make sure you guys can hear me. You might hear double audio for a second as I check how I'm sounding on Twitch and Facebook as well. Okay. Yes, I can hear myself humming, so that means that this is working on Facebook. And let's try Twitch. Okay. Okay, turn that down. Alright, I can see you and hear you guys in the comments. So anything you guys type on the Facebook comments, on the Twitch comments, I'm trying to keep track, so just ask if any questions you have, and then I'll get to them as soon as I can. Wow. Alright, toss that there. Twitch is being funky. Strange, yeah. Twitch is just stalling on me. That never happens. But maybe because I just switched the monitor screen there for a sec. Alright, so this is a project that I was working on in last week's stream. It was a mask that I had very quickly designed, sculpted, and printed just with you guys. And I finished it. I printed it out, and I painted it, and I wore it for Halloween. So I wanted to show you guys how that turned out. Yeah, so strange. Twitch is just being funky. Alright, I'll start opening that up in ZBrush in the meanwhile so we can see how it turned out. How weird. Alright, let's load it up. There's the scar mask number 2. In our lovely red wax material, let's switch that to something else. Do some anti-aliasing so you can see it. We'll do a quick turn. Alright, so some things to notice about this. I left air holes for myself to breathe through. You can see they're a bit janky at the edges, but that's fine. They got cleaned up when I printed. I left holes along the side here to put elastic through to put on the mask, and obviously eye holes to be able to see. Now the eye holes were perfectly lined up to my face because I had a scan. So there's a scan I got of my face from 3D when I went to SIGGRAPH a few years back. And they have the scanner which can very quickly, with just 2 cameras on either end, I think they have 4, in a microsecond they take a scan of your entire face and they can spit it out for you. And so because I had that, I was able to build on top of it, and I knew my eyes would be able to line up. And I actually used my head, I just inflated it and used it as the cutter shape in order to get this shape cut out. Inflated it and smoothed it to get all of that cut out. And then I pushed the snout in a bit forward too. This way I could have some room to open my mouth and talk. But pretty good considering that made this in less than 2 hours in last week's stream, and then we were able to print it out. So let me show you that. Get in character. First things first. Yeah, Twitch is working again. Let me double check the audio on it. Get in character. Sweet. Yes. Okay. Nice that. Make this screen a bit larger so you can see. So this had a whole costume to it, but I'm not putting that on right now. I'm going to do that. Elastic straps in through the edge. And I got to peekaboo my ears out. And I'm prepared for the coup of the century. Check it out. I did have a beard like this at one point, and it was really fun, because I could just do this and look really wise. I could probably do the whole stream like this today, but I don't feel like it. It's a pretty comfortable mask. It fits really well. It's pretty light. The eye holes are large enough to where I can see pretty well. Like, not much is constrained. The good thing about doing like animation style characters with the big eyes, their expression is baked in, but that's fine because it's a really fun expression. Aha! And I could just do this. So most of the night I was kind of like this, and I'll show you how it ended up being used. What the full outfit, what the full package looked like. Bam! Went to my friend Evie's party, and she has a snake. And she has several snakes. But it fit perfectly with the Scar character, I thought. So yeah, the whole one-piece Snuggie thing with the tail, everything was going on. It was me and my friend Hassan. He was dressed as the Wall from Stranger Things. This thing had no pockets, so of course I had to carry a little fanny pack, but that worked out. You can see that seemed pretty happy in that outfit. Alright. I wonder if you guys could even see that because that screen was so massive. I'll show you again. There's the outfit in all its glory. And then the snake I was talking about. Alright. So, done with that project. This turned out pretty cool. I might end up, a lot of people were telling me to make these and sell these. I have no idea how that would work with Disney copyright. They would probably sue me unless I do a very limited batch on Etsy where it's under their radar. But I don't know. This is a pretty fun project, and the mask turned out pretty dope, and a lot of people dug it. I think 20 people must have tried it on that night. So I'd say pretty successful project for a short term. This was printed on the Raise 3D N2 Plus. That's this big printer right here. You can see. And this is my FDM printer. So it's just a filament spool of plastic, and like a hot glue gun, it basically lays it out, melts it, and lays it out to build your thing. This was printed kind of upside down like this, with just a few supports lining the bottom. And that was it. I think it took about maybe between 12 to 20 hours to print. The fastest resolution speed. I did another print on here recently, which was this fungusaur of mine, little dinosaur mushroom hybrid. This is a C-Rex, a chanterelle mushroom mixed with a T-Rex, therefore C-Rex. And you can see the arms didn't print out properly the first time, so I had to print those again, and then I'd reattach them on. So I just epoxied those on and did a little dremeling to fix it up. And I don't know if you can tell just by looking at this thing because it's already been a little bit spray painted, but there's a bunch of build lines that I want to be able to eradicate. Like you can see the lines. And that's a pretty normal case for FDM printing. You can see a lot of the build of lines, and you can see a bit easier from the top. You can see like the parts where the top of the printer just kind of leaves them spiraling around each other. Here, you can see the bottom a bit even better. There's some jankiness going around the bottom. And this chin didn't print, so I basically filled in the chin with Sculpey, Super Sculpey, and then just did a little lightering on it to harden that Sculpey. And now that it's basically, you know, a pretty nice big model, I want to see if I can get this ready in time to sell for DesignerCon in 2 weeks. Paint it up fully like my character. So what I want to do is basically apply a coating to smooth this whole thing in order to then be able to paint it and then have the lines just be blurred and smoothed out. So let me see, how do we go about this? Caitlin Skull, Joan Ragudo, thanks for joining. What's up? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the Scar mask turned out. Slobodan, thank you for letting me know the avatar covered everything. Alright, he's asking a question also. How can I make a perfect shell of a mesh for 3D printing? I tried and it gave me different results across the model, somewhere with 4mm thickness, somewhere with up to 10 to 12mm thickness. So Slobodan, if you want to be perfectly precise with how a model hollows out, you probably don't want to do it in ZBrush. It's not ideal for perfectly hollowing. Industry standard is to use a few different software for hollowing and keying and slicing. Magix is the big one, but they can get pretty expensive. I think Magic is $10,000 to $20,000. You can do it in Mesh Mixer, which is a free application, which I recommend for hollowing. But since this is a ZBrush stream, I can show you how to go about hollowing something in ZBrush. So this mask doesn't really have much space to hollow out, and you won't be able to tell. So let me switch to something like a cylinder, and I'll give a very quick hollowing demo. I'll make it a Polymesh 3D, divide it a few times, delete lower. So right now, I'll Dynamesh it, smooth it out, and let's just do a one part quick sculpt. So let's just do something like that so we know it's somehow different. And if we take a look on the inside, you don't see much, so I'm just going to go up to Display Properties here in my Tool menu and click Double. Alright, so you can see that it is not hollowed. It's basically just a shell. And what I want to do is hollow it out. Easiest way to do this that I've found is to go to the IMM primitives and select something like a cylinder and draw it out on your mesh. Now when you're drawing it out, it's going to be right up at the surface, so you want to adjust your depth slider here, which is blocked by my camera. I'll show you where that is. I'm going to move this out of the way. So here's the depth slider that I've got in my UI, and by default it's kind of high, and you want to make it a bit lower. That way when you draw it out, it'll bury it into the mesh. For the rest of you, that's under brush depth, I think, here, and then that's where the slider is. Alright, so instead of just drawing it out normally, what you want to do is hold Alt when you draw, and it'll kind of draw a negative shape of it. You drop your mask, and then you go to your tool palette, and instead of dynameshing, you want to do create shell, and you set your thickness. So this time, let's just set it to 5 and see what it does. There we go. And now it's got a thickness, it's got a shell, it's got a hole that it's dropping everything out of. You can see part of it. And there, you can see how we've hollowed this mesh. Now the inside is a bit janky. What I like to do when I do this kind of hollowing is very quickly just mask this top area. I like to do the poly groups, group masked, and then Control Shift click, because group mask basically made that area that I had masked its own color. I can Control Shift click to see the inside, and then I want to make sure I don't have these floating edges along the side. Looks like a bunch of stuff was just floating, so I'm going to press Control W to unify all the groups, and I'll try again. Select that mask, group masked, hide that, and now I've got these two, and now I can just click auto groups. With that middle part hidden, it's going to basically make that its own poly group. Now I've got all of the middle selected, and I can just very quickly with my smooth brush just smooth all of that out, holding Shift. Because you don't want any extra detail on the inside of your model. The more stair casing you have, the more support ZBrush or any print software will want to create. But that's basically it. That's how you go about shelling. And you can set the thickness, and this will be uniform all the way across, except for obviously where you smooth and it'll feel different. That's how you go about it in ZBrush. In Mesh Mixer, it's a bit easier, and you can set it to 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, 5 millimeters, whatever you want. Alright, hope that was useful. Okay, so what I want to do right now is do a little physical demo of this little guy getting smoothed out, and this is basically how to smooth prints with XTC. XTC 3D is a nice little box like this. It comes from a company called Smooth-On, and it's a brush-on coating for 3D printed parts. And what they promise to do, if you can tell by the photo, is take all that complex detail in the lines and the build and just smooth it out. So you brush it on. It's a brush-on coating that should take this and make it even smoother and ready for priming and painting. So it's a polyurethane resin solution mixture. 2 parts, A and B. Where's the A? Yeah. And so B, you can start by just shaking the heck out of B. You want to vigorously mix it. Make sure the cap is closed when you shake. And you're going to mix a 2-part solution into a cup. Now, ideally, you'd have a, not a foam cup, you'd have a plastic cup, but in the short time span that I'll be doing this, this will work just fine. So I'm going to move my camera over now to the side a bit and try to set up a better view. Don't get that VR sickness. And don't mind the mess in my background. We've got a lot of stuff to still sort out. Just moved into this place recently. Alright, there we go. Alright, I don't recommend doing this next to your Cintiq, but I've got no space, so I'm just going to do it right here and show you guys. Going to also, you know what, I will buy some space for myself maybe. We've got this little extra keyboard stand thing, so I'll put it on there. I've got a bunch of newspaper magazine clippings and some paper towel on here to protect my space. And what I want to do is basically mix this 2-part solution and get it on here. I'll move my keyboard aside for now. Now, when you're working with resin in general, like when you're working with the Form 2 printer I've got in the back there, or with anything like XTC 3D, you want to wear gloves. Rubber nitrile gloves. That's what I use. Nitrile. don't give you any allergic reaction, and keeps your hands safe. Now I'm just using a regular painter's brush that you can get in Home Depot for like $1 or less. You could use a foam brush that I've seen yield better results. Alright, but basically, I'm going to pop this open. It's been a bit since I used this last, so it's a little bit tight. There we go. Pour a bunch of this in here. Obviously, the more precise you can be, the better. But I've kind of got a feel for this because I've done it a bit. Mix part A and part B. A bit more of part A than part B. Now, you don't need a lot of it. I put already too much into this cup. I already know. But I'm basically going to take that and I'm going to mix that solution. Yeah, you can see I've got quite a bit on here. Give it a good, nice, thorough mixing. And I'll share a video tutorial of this made by Matter Hackers. It's a solid tutorial on how to use XTC 3D to smooth prints. Alright, now that I've got it nice and mixed up, looks pretty good. Looks like I put a lot more B than I did A, so I'm going to put a little bit more A. Give it a nice little mixing again. Yeah. The two prints I've got are the Form 2 and the Race 3D. The Form 2 is a SLA printer, resin printer, and that one gives really nice, clean results right out of the box, right out of the print. Really nice smooth finish. You barely see the build lines, but there are a lot of supports you need to clean up. So those supports need to be dremeled and cleaned up. The FDM printers have issues with supports. They actually, parts break off pretty regularly because they're not properly supported, because supports aren't able to go very high. So you need to build like custom supports. Or the issue is that the parts, when they print, don't stick to supports. The supports just don't stick very well in FDM prints, depending on the speed and temperature, I guess. But then you always have the build lines. So the printers are getting faster and better. It's almost getting to a point where the quality is perfect. But that's why we got to use things like XTC 3D here in order to just make it all just that little bit more perfect. Alright, so I'm just going to move this back into my space a little bit. And tapping against the edge so I don't have too much XTC on here at the time. And just start brushing it on. Now I'm not too worried about streaks because XTC 3D dries almost completely streakless. And a little bit goes a long way with XTC. You don't need to mix a ton like I just did. I was just looking around for any other prints I had that I could put XTC on. But since I have a bunch, I might as well use a bunch. Make this really nice and gel smooth. And you can see it's getting shinier. Like the whole top of the head is much shinier than the body right now because it's coated in this XTC. You can see it drips, so that's why I had laid out the paper towel and the magazine pages under there. If you want to be a bit more precise, you might want to lay out some like a cardboard box or a paper plate just to be extra safe. But we're just going to come here and paint some happy little prints. Happy little prints. It does feel a bit Bob Rossy, but it is pretty relaxing and chill. One thing I like about 3D printing is just the ability to get out of my head and out of my computer from time to time and be able to do things like this. Just do physical stuff. Now, it's not always fun physical stuff. Oftentimes, it's like sanding and dremeling and, non-fun stuff. But it is fun that it's physical and not completely in this digital zone. I'm going to lift this and move it around just slightly. Get a better angle on that tail. Now resin, and this kind of resin, it'll basically, whatever you spill it onto, it's going to cure on there, cure hard. So if you spill it on your hands, on your clothes, wherever you spill it, it's going to become part of that surface. So that's why you want to make sure that you have gloves on and that your surface is somewhat well protected. This also pretty much sacrifices the brush because it will harden onto the brush and become very, very hard. Alright, that's looking good all along the tops. Now I do also want to make sure I hit the bottoms. So not an ideal move. I should ideally do this in 2 steps. But I want to make sure that I hit the bottom, because the bottom has a lot of parts that needed a little love. I'm going to pour a whole bunch of XTC right there and put that on. Brush that onto my model. The good thing about this material is that I can now still sand it down after the fact, and it'll sand down the XTC once the XTC hardens. And so I can basically continue working it like I would a fresh print, except it'll be much smoother. Alright, that's looking good. I think I've hit all the parts that I wanted to on this. And it's all looking pretty evenly coated. Alright, I'm going to tie this up now. Move it over to my desk clean area. So, hope you guys enjoyed that little simple, quick demo on smoothing your prints using XTC 3D. I'm going to grab all of this and move it over. Alright, and I've got a little bit of spills here, but it's still fine because it's relatively fresh. I'm going to take some paper towel and some isopropyl alcohol and just wipe it down. Cool. Alright, and now we are ready to go back into digital land. Alright, so that was this product, XTC 3D. They're not paying me to say this or anything like that. I just really like this thing because it works. Alright. So, next up, I'm going to toss these gloves. Maybe I'll keep them as like working gloves. Alright. And let's jump back into ZBrush on some stuff. Alright, first let me check if you guys have any questions about this stuff. And Sean Lake, thanks for joining, man. What's up? All right. Isopropylique. Is that French? Must be. Here we go. Digital Armory here is giving some great ideas, tips on working with XTC 3D. Mix your components in a cup and then pour the mixture into a tray of tin foil. This slows down the cure process due to exotherm. In addition, have a cup of acetone available to put your brush in to allow you to reuse your brush for a potential second coat. Smart ideas, man. Here, there's a really solid video that I can share with you guys on using XTC 3D by Matter Hackers. They're one of the local companies in LA that I order stuff from. It's not that infinity stuff. And put that here on Facebook as well. Cecile confirming, yes, it is French. Nice. Peter is stock. What's up, man? Alright, cool. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, just drop them in there. Otherwise, I'm glad you guys are having your own chat. Alright, talking about the Anycubic Photon, a cheap alternative SLA printer, which I've heard nothing but good things about. Awesome. Alright, cool. So, let's move on to another project. I did basically kind of an overview of the scar mask that I had done, which is this guy. And again, if you want to see me how I went about sculpting it, you can go into my previous presentations at pixelogic.com, ZBrush Live, Aiman Akhtar, and you can actually see how we sculpted it all from scratch in one session. The thing I was working on previous to that was this sculpt for a friend of mine, Ryan Winch, his Space Pilgrim IP with his main character Logan. And up till now, we've done about 5 sessions on that character, just kind of showing how I'd block it in, start working on the backpack, some hard surface stuff, doing a mini print just to kind of test proportions and pose and balance. Then refining more features like refining the face, updating the backpack for actually good hard surface topology, or as good as I can make it. And then just continuing there, I just jumped off for Halloween on this. Let's jump back on that project and see if we can try to get closer to wrapping it up. So the remainder of this stream is going to be less 3D printy stuff and more just sculpty stuff. Let's put on some music. Alright, and I shall load it up. Hope you guys like Ghibli jazz. I just love the music from Studio Ghibli. Alright, I'll shrink this video down a bit so you guys can see some more stuff. So there's the hair. Let's turn solo off. We can see the full body. The character. There's the backpack, the giant backpack. Alright, so what I want to do on this guy is just continue detailing. So let's pull up the concept so you guys can see what I'm working on. Working off of. Alright, so this is the character. In the previous iteration of his comic book, the character was younger, and now he's a bit older. And he's got this detailed spacesuit on. So I want to make a little bit more of the spacesuit feeling. I want to work a little bit more on the ground, the base, the shoes, the gloves, Basically just adding detail wherever I can. Still need to refine the character's face and features a bit more. This tube needs to be worked on a little bit. And this front section as well. Just detailing in general. Alright, so I'll have this concept pulled off to the side. Let's start with the larger elements and go down into the smaller elements. So now that I'm happy with the proportion and pose, I want to bring all the detail level up to the same amount. Like I worked a little bit on the face, and I'm not happy with it just yet, but I want to bring up the level of the shoes, the ground, the base maybe a little bit. This tube right here, for example, it's just the kind of blocking in. If you look at the concept, that one tube has another tube kind of going all around it. So let's draw that first. I'll go into the curve tube brush, and I might go with the curve tube snap. That way it'll snap along the surface. I'll have it come out of the same area, and let's just drop it here just to see what it does. Now it won't do anything because I had multiple subdivision levels. So I'm going to undo, delete lower, and try again. Alright, now that's massive. So I can lower my draw size and click on it again, and it should update the size. But for some reason it's not, so let's just make it smaller and try again. Bit better, still too big. There we go. So draw size of 11 is giving us pretty much what I want. And if I want this to be a bit smoother, I can increase my lazy mouse radius, and it'll just draw it out a bit smoother for me. I'll increase that radius a bit more. For you guys, that's under stroke, lazy mouse, the radius right there. And I'm going to draw it all the way from beginning to end, and then we'll loop it around. Messed up near the end there. It went and snapped to the shirt, which I don't want, so I'll try again. There we go. And if you want, you can grab the ends and pull a little bit, and that tends to smooth it out a bit as well. Now to drop it, just click off that model and it'll drop that selection. I'm going to go ahead and draw the base one for the other side as well. Pull that a little bit from the ends just to make it a bit smoother. And drop that selection again. Whoop. There we go. Alright, now with just these 2 points selected, I can start sculpting them around a little bit. I may inflate, I may move them over, but the first thing I want to do is solo this out. And you see this weird way I drew it? It was just basically prepping the way so that I could have my move tool and then grab it and move it over to the back side. That way I can create a very quick loop around. You may want to do this one at a time. It's a quick, easy way to create spirals, but I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any gaps between this first cable and the second one. Normally that would be fine, But because this is a 3D printed character, or I'm going to be 3D printing this, probably about like 6 inches tall or so, I want to make sure there's no gaps. It would still print if there were gaps. It would just print a bit weird. Might likely break or drop, or it would need extra supports. Trying to recreate the basic feel of gravity with this kind of going from top down and then coming back around as if being pushed to a specific area. Same thing here. Looks like when I move that whole piece around a bit, I inadvertently moved this stuff around. Let me duplicate this so I have that part saved the way I want and undo back in this to where I messed this up. There we go, right there. Alright, and I'm going to split these parts. Delete hidden there. Delete hidden there. Just so they're on their own separate layers. I'll control drag with the transpose line from this model over to another model, and that'll select the whole surface. Pretty comfortable with Transpose Master now. Still have to get used to the gizmo personally. I'll get there. Continuing to loop this spiral around. Let's turn off solo mode and see what this is looking like. Of course, I'm completely upside down. I like that spiral down there. It adds a bit of detail, but it feels like it needs another one over here. Let's try. This is a good thing about ZBrush. You can just try things. Yep, I was right. Adding an extra spiral just makes it that much better. Sometimes you've got to deviate from the 2D concept just slightly in order to make it read, and that's your job as a sculptor, to know when to do that. Alright, looking good. It's nice to have that thick and thin, the separation of that tube and this smaller tube. Adds a little bit more variety. That thin tube might be a bit too thin, so I might do one thing. I might select it, go under my deformation tab, and just tap inflate. So maybe like 2. Maybe let's try 5. Because it's still pretty thin, it just gives it that little bit of presence. Do the same thing over here. Inflate 5. Yeah. This might need another bit of spiraling too. Cool. Alright, next up, let's add soles to these shoes. And the pants and the shirt. In general, just I haven't done much cloth work with this at all yet. A little shape to these pants. Solo those out if I just want to work on those by themselves. Trying to think about wrinkles and flow, because wrinkles have to support the body. This is their whole purpose. If you're just adding wrinkles for the sake of adding wrinkles, it shows. But if you use them to enhance the flow, then they look pretty cool. You have to identify the point of the wrinkle start, like it would be pulling down this way. And then it'd be compressing down this way. Same on the other side. Wrinkles also help to define what the material is. Like if I had a bunch of wrinkles here, then you'd think it's a very compressing material, but because it's a spacesuit, I don't need that many. I need thicker ones, because it's got to be a thick material. Yeah, wrinkles have to react to what's happening to them too. So since this cord is on top, it's putting pressure down on those points, it would generate some wrinkles there. I like to bounce around the entire model when I do this, just so I don't get caught up in one place. Just make sure you have the right model selected when you're working on it. What are you guys working on yourselves? Anything interesting? You got some time coming up with the Thanksgiving break coming, at least in the States, if you're here. Anyone working on the Feudal Japan challenge? I know a few of my friends that are in that right now. Very invested in that. I've got too much going on with my Fungosaurus toy launch to join any challenge right now. I gotta make it feel like this backpack strap is more on the shoulder, because then it'll make compression. It makes more sense. I think the easiest thing to do in this case would be not to adjust the strap, but to adjust the shoulder. I don't know, maybe a bit of both. Some of the challenges of sculpting at pose for a complex sculpt, you need to go back and forth a bit. Think about everything. Think like an engineer, how things would actually fit together, but also think about how they would interact. I'm gonna try something. If I rotate this whole strap a bit, what happens? That way. See, to me, that is much more believable right in that shoulder area that it's sitting on it. But now it breaks the edges. So what I'll have to do is, maybe if I can leave the transposed line there, I can find a nice balance. I can try to select only the areas I want, such as, let's see here. Nah, of course I had to move the transposed line if I did that. Since this is all a segmented piece, I can try to grab just the edge ones and try to rotate those. See what happens. Yep. I want to make sure I don't accidentally sculpt anything I don't want. Just fix sculpting. Fixing this, fixing that. It's usually what I have to do when I'm off a model for like a week or so. I have to come back and reacquaint myself with it, just by pushing polys around. Hopefully now, once my toys are launched this designer con in 2 weeks, I can take more time to finish this project up properly. Alright, let's take a look. Sometimes it's a pain to get ZBrush to listen to which direction you want to look at something. You just have to hold shift to snap. Alright, much better. Feels like it's resting on the shoulder better now. And then it still has a bit of pull. Because that makes the backpack feel heavier when there's more pull like that. So I want to minimize any tension here. I want to basically make it feel like a straight line until it hits the backpack. I mean, until it hits the shoulder. I'm going to look at it from a few angles, make sure I'm getting that. Let's keep bouncing around a bit. I'm going to save this because I haven't saved the scene in a bit now. This will be Logan 7. Let me check if you guys have any questions going on here in Twitch. Kurt saying ArtStation needs to have a 3D print option for challenges as well. That's pretty dope. That's a good idea, Kurt. Alright, Kyle from Pixelogics has a question about XTC. I have a PLA printer with paint on it already, primer paint on already. Can you use XTC on that, on an already painted print, or would it be better to sand it down? No, see Kyle, the good thing about XTC is that it's a resin coat, so it'll sit on just about anything. Luckily Digital Armory answered you a bit earlier than me, but yeah, it's resin, so it'll coat on anything. The good thing about doing it on fresh prints is that there are a lot of build lines, so it'll be able to sink into those build lines really well and stick, but it'll work on a painted piece. Alright, Ben Ghazal on Facebook is asking, I'm a fan of drawing characters and monsters, want to learn ZBrush. If I mastered, what would be my destiny in the field? Finding the right jobs for me, are there jobs in this specialty? Can I learn it, and I can learn quickly? Okay, so in regards to making characters and monsters specifically, there's a lot of competition in that industry. So you have to be not just knowing how to use ZBrush, you have to be very good at design. You have to know anatomy. You have to know why monsters work the way they work. You have to be able to mix creatures. That's a lot of what making monsters is. And it's a really fast work. It's not stuff that you have a lot of time to do, to refine. So, to answer your question specifically, are there jobs? Yes. Can you find the right job for you? It really depends, one, where you are. Like, I'm in LA. I moved here because there's more entertainment jobs. I was in Chicago prior to this, and it was mostly commercial work. So there were very few characters and monsters in Chicago. Since I've been in LA, I've worked on a lot more characters and monsters. So it depends where you are, and two, it depends how good you can make your work. So, yeah, that's basically the nutshell of it. Can you do it? Yes. Absolutely. I don't believe in talent, so to speak. I believe hard work overrides talent every single time. Alright, Seafoam Slug just tuned in. Did I start with the base mesh or did I start it already in pose mode? So I started this character in pose. There was no base mesh. Usually how I like to start is by building a lot of base pieces. So I'll start by building just these elements and then I'll start combining them together. Or even keep working them completely separately until I start merging. Like if I start thinking now about this t-shirt and this sleeve, I might do something like that to really help me indicate, okay, it's got to merge into the shirt now. And try to find that area where how it would merge. So if you want to see the previous iterations of this, how I developed this character, you can check out here. Pixelogic.com ZBrush Live. It's easiest to just type in ZBrush Live, not Slack. Hold on. ZBrush Live. So if you type that, you'll see these. This is the first result on Google. Just go to presenters. And you can scroll down. There's some awesome people here. Shane Olson, Ashley, Danny Mack. Michael Pavlovich has the best tips. If you scroll down, you'll find me, Aiman Akhtar, past broadcasts and schedules. And you can see this character kind of evolve slowly. So the first step I did on him was really, really simple. It was literally just laying out the base shapes. There's some Fungusaur stuff. Alright, so here you go. Around this midsection, you can see me start blocking it in. And I block it in with really basic shapes like cylinders, cubes, more cylinders, spheres. And this is just the first part of trying to find the shapes. Find the proportion. And that's how I start a lot of my projects, because I want to be able to control each part individually, separately, for as long as possible. So I hope that answered your question. Alright, Muzak died. Let's bring some back. Cool. Alright, so coming back to this project now. Got another hour or so in my live stream to sculpt this morning. What I think would be the most useful is to just keep refining all of these pieces, thinking about those wrinkles, how they would naturally form. Mostly just working with a damn standard brush there for those. Trying to think about how these parts would connect to each other, like the sleeves to the shirt, for example. Simplifying where I can. Sometimes I'll add wrinkles in just to see if they work, and if they don't, I'll toss them. I do a lot of wrinkles, which is damn standard, but it's always a two-step process. You like draw it out, you smooth it a bit. You may, go in and inflate pieces, only parts of them, for example, like the bottom, and that really makes it feel a lot more like wrinkle. Alright, I want to work on the soles of these shoes. So let's start trying to make a little bit more of those. Now this is a pretty square foot because it's a pretty blocky square character. But I can still shape it a bit. And this might be a case of where I make just one shoe and then mirror it over. Or not. Let's see. Let's Dynamesh this. Bit higher resolution. A little bit of pinching. Alright, let's grab this bottom section here all the way across, and I'll do a mesh extract. So I'll mask that area, soften that mask a bit, and then I'll go to extract and just click extract, see what it does. Obviously it turns solo mode off, but I can't see much because this base is right there. I'm going to hide the base. Let's try again. Extract. So that's pretty thick. It gives me what I need. So let's just click accept. Drop these masks. Just smooth it out. Try to Dynamesh it as well. Oftentimes I'll just use extract to get me a base shape, and then I'll keep working it. Use the clip curve brush, clip that bottom. Use the move brush, make that sole a bit bigger. It is a space sole after all. Clip brush again, bring back a bit of that bevel. And let's just increase the ledge a bit there by inflating the whole thing. Alright, let's take a look at what Ryan had for the concept for the sole. Pretty standard blocky sole there. Big gap in the center. So yeah, you don't really see it on this one, but you do see it on the back one because the back foot is up. So yeah, I got to do something with the sole. Let's start by just using clip curve brush. And I'll just try to do a bit of clipping and try to get the shape I want. Now it's imperative that I try to find the right angle, so it may be better to do this kind of at symmetry, because it's going to be very hard for me to figure out the right angle for this stuff just by working at it in space. But clip curve is a very quick way to create these shapes. You just have to check them. Let's hide half the shoe. Wrong half. So you can see very quickly I can start laying out the shapes I want. But I need more geometry. Increase my Dynamesh resolution. Smooth that out a bit. And I'm switching back and forth between select rectangle and clip curve, because that's what I want to use. So one thing I want to do right now is just create this back pattern. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're mostly going off the side. So let's try to create those. So that's basically the angle that I'm going for. So that's correct. Let's try to match up a few more of those. If you hold Alt or double tap Alt, that's how you can get that sharp edge. That one was good, just a bit thin. I think the best way to do this would be to find the one angle, stay at it, flatten the bottom of that shoe, find my angle, and I can even save it. I've got this custom transform, which is basically in your draw section. I think in draw, no, under your document, camera, here. Z app link properties. You can save custom camera views. So I'll just click custom 1 there, and this will be my custom 1 view, I think. Yeah, and if I click now custom 1, it'll always go back to that view, and then I can do all of these at the same time. Give the edge a little bit of breadth. Obviously a very different way than I do it for production, but for sketching, it's perfect. Sometimes they get a bit janky though. Gives me exactly kind of what I want. I can Dynamesh again, smooth it. Use some H-polish brushes and clipping to refine the shape a bit better. But basically it gives me a very quick sketch of a soul. And for the front I want to do something similar too. Use a little H-polish there and there. There's a lot of things that, coming from a Maya background, I like to do in Maya or Modo, at least for hard surface stuff. But sometimes when you're sketching, you want to stay in ZBrush as much as possible. Alright, and I could do the same thing for the front, but according to the concept, it's slightly different. It's got more of just these blocks. So instead of clipping just one direction, I'll clip in 2 directions, and that should give me the blocks. So custom 1 and custom 2 view. Check if you guys have any questions on Twitch here. The past one was Ghibli music, Seafoam Slug. I think this one is a bit Disney. I think it's all covers though, so should be okay if I play them. Alright. Let's back at this. Let's go to our custom 1 view. And I'll continue the custom 1 view for this part, the front part. But I'm just going to hide the rest of this because I don't want to mess it up. Again, switching from my clip curve back to select rectangle to hide something. Or you know what? I might just mask it. That way I can still use it as reference. Back to my custom 1 view. And I will basically do the same thing here and then do it the other way as well. A different custom view on the other side. Remember to clip curve. Alright, just checking if this works. Yeah, pretty good. Just want to make sure the spacing is a bit more even than I've got it. Back to custom 1 view. Start a bit later. Smooth that out a bit. Dynamesh a bit. Alright, that last edge one causes more trouble than it helps. Another thing I'm noticing is that mask should probably be extended all the way to here in order to avoid any funkiness. There we go. Back to custom 1 view. So you can see it takes a couple of tries to get the right clipping. That's why that custom view is so useful. Let's try just 3. Yeah, I think that should be good. Maybe if I start it a bit later too. Let's start it. One thing I've learned which is pretty dope is if you want to hold space, you can move this whole clip to wherever you want. So instead of starting there, like I have been a few times, I'm going to start it a bit later and I'll just do 3 of them. Try again. Get nice clean ones. Alright, neat. Dynamesh those. Tap smooth a bit. And now I'm going to do the same thing just from the other side. So again, I'll mask this area. And let's find a new view. Bit of the opposite of that previous custom 1 view. So we can be perpendicular to it. It's pretty much right there. Alright, let's try that. Let's save it as custom 2. And let's see what happens if I just clip a bit right there. Maybe a little bit here. So that gives us the cubes, basically, squared off pieces. So those clips were a bit too high. We'll do the same thing, just a bit lower. Alright, let's Dynamesh that. Smooth it out again. This one bothers me a bit. So I'll just come in and start sculpting now by hand. Just using the clay brush. Give it a nice bulk. Dynamesh as I go. Select that, and let's make those a bit deeper. We can also use the clip curve now to clip them. That one just looks like a mistake. I'm going to get rid of that. Easy way to get rid of it, the exact height you need, is to just use trim adaptive. And it'll get rid of it perfectly. Another thing I might do, because all of these are getting a bit mushy, I might inflate. Let's try doing a full deformation inflate. Dynamesh that, and then clip again. Might take that trim adaptive approach to clean this up a bit. Turn on my lazy mouse. And you see how I can use trim adaptive to basically everything will go to the surface that is the lowest. Increase my lazy mouse. Space this out a bit more evenly. Smooth it out. You gotta be a bit careful with trim adaptive because it can eat away a lot. Even out the spacing of some of these as well. And let's try to use that trim adaptive approach to refine these lines. A bit hard there. I might go back to my custom 1 view, just to kind of clip those down, clean up a bit. Luckily, that's right there for us. Alright, smooth that out again. Use our various brushes like H polish too. Check out this full sole. Oh, I think these need to be a bit longer and larger. So I'll do that. There, now it feels more like cleats to a boot. Smooth that edge. Don't want too sharp of an edge there. Alright. Let's go ahead and duplicate that and put it over for the other leg. Duplicate it. Move it over. Rotate in place. Nope, not that way. I'm going to try to line it up with the other foot. You know, in this case, I should actually probably just do the whole shoe. It'll be a bit easier to do that. So let's select the shoe. Make sure I've got that heel filled out, nice and round. Let's merge that onto the cleat. And duplicate the whole thing. And move it over. Now, a simple duplication won't do the trick. We'll need to mirror it over to the other end. So instead of doing that, I'm going to do Z plugin, subtool master, mirror. Over the x-axis, let's try. Yeah, I guess it's more over the z-axis because we're building at such an angle, but that should work. Whoa. I've got the top of the shoe poking down. It's okay, I can fix that. For that, I'm just going to select the top part of the shoe, and I can clip along the side. It'll push that all back in. And for this now, I want to do a bit of rotation along the front part of the shoe and cleat. So I'm going to mask it and then control tap to smooth that mask down a lot. And then rotate. Now, this will look a bit janky at first. Quite a bit. Let's try to do it from a bit lower. Maybe a bit higher. I'll have to come in and save this with some creative sculpting. That's partially why I like to keep it all so organic. It's just my sculpting style. I know it's gonna get things are gonna get pushed around, meshed around, shoved around a bit. Some of the best sculptors I know, their favorite brush, move brush. I like Damn Standard a lot too. Lets you bring back a lot of those shapes that you lose when you transpose sometimes. Alright, see what this is looking like. I gotta fix the other shoe still. Select the top part, clip that down. Nice. I think I still have the old shoe here. See if I can isolate that. Yep, that one. I'm going to toss that. Make some global changes to the shoe as well. Fix the pants around the shoes. The shoes are looking pretty massive now. I may come in and do like a global size scale on them. So you know what they say about big feet. They're distracting. Yeah, the front one doesn't look as big. I guess it didn't need to get as stretched out. Let's bring the base back as well. Where is the base? Here we are. Adjust the base so that I can see more of the shoe. Maybe rotate it a bit overall. Not the base, the shoe. Because I don't want it to look like super bendy boots. But I also don't want the boots just sinking into the ground too much either. Yeah, that doesn't read as well. Still happy to be making some more overall progress. Let's make this base sink down again so we can see more of the shoe. Well, I don't know how much of the cleats we'll be able to see in the final print. Now in Ryan's concept, he doesn't mind having this foot bend look a lot more obvious. So I'll just try to do that and see if it works. Gotta think about that underlying anatomy and what foot actually is in there. The complexities of sculpting a character at pose. Inflate that. You see the ledge of that pant. Alright, much better now. Feels real. Alright, that was a good time with those boots. Let's move on to some other stuff as well. 15 minutes left in the stream. Let's see, what can I do in 15 minutes? Let's see if you guys have any questions going on. Shane Olson stopping by to say, move brush for the win. Thanks, man. Yeah, check out Shane Olson's live stream. I think it should be at 11 today. Alright, cool. Okay. So, I don't know, not much I can do in the next 10 to 15 minutes. It's just more refining and more working on this stuff. Feeling a bit better overall about it. Still need a lot more believable wrinkling work. So I can start laying out a bit more of that. Trying to break this apart a bit more. Pretty hard to work on with all this stuff getting in the way. Adding a bit more secondary detail for these wrinkles. Probably not necessary just yet, but at this stage. I just want to start making this model look a bit prettier. So you can see when I sculpt wrinkles, I tend to basically find the point of origin where the wrinkles would be coming out of, and then I try to over sculpt it, and then I pull it back. Also, another thing is to try to make sure that you're not repeating yourself too much, because otherwise it just looks strange. Like all of these, they shouldn't be parallel distance from each other. Like if this one's here, then this one should be much further. So it just breaks up the monotony. Wrinkles would never happen evenly. Some wrinkles just need to remain subtle, like this one. Don't want to overpronounce it too much. Might be time to merge this shirt or these sleeves into the shirt soon. I do like to keep things as separate as possible as long as I can. But eventually you gotta merge them all. These are kind of getting to really where I want them to be. That nice balance of not too sharp. Feels much more like spacesuity. Oh, I see. Got some of the original leftover anatomy blocking in I did in here still. Slowly but surely figuring this out. Nope. You can see all the wrinkles. I'm trying to find the origin points of where they would push and pull and tense up against, and then pulling them out from there. So they're all just random. There's a method to all the madness. I think this character is going to need a belt here in order to pull this all together. You know, I think he needs a badge on this side too, kind of like he's got on this one. Let's see here. Yep. Looking at the concept, there's a badge on either side. So I'm going to take that piece and duplicate it, move it over to the other end. And rotate it around. Just rotate it in place. And push it into the shoulder. You know, I think the shoulder just in general needs to be further out in order for that backpack to make sense. Then again, I don't want him to look like a hunchback either. And this is why it's good to still keep these meshes on separate pieces until you figure out all the proportions perfectly. Because if I had the arm merge into the body already, it would have been a pain to figure out this proportional change. Easy enough to edit the patch once it's in place, though. Alright, for this area, I might have to give it a bit more love in solo mode and really figure out the proportions before I commit to this patch placement. But not too shabby for today. Give it an overall sense of polish. Let's see here. Yeah. So give it an overall sense of polish, worked on the shoe soles, added a little bit more detail along the tubes here. Wrinkle time, lots of wrinkles. We'll continue refining this through the week and update you guys on it next week. Thanks for stopping by on my live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will give you an update on how that 3D print turns out. The one that's just been XTC'd all over today in the beginning of the stream. Once again, if you guys want to follow me, you can check out my stuff on Aiman3D.com. You can follow me on Instagram. I've got Instagram Aiman Akhtar 3D, and my latest project, which is Fungusaurs, which is like a little augmented reality app and a mystery box toy set, which I'm launching in 2 weeks at DesignerCon. So stay abreast of all of that. And see me again next week here, same bad time, same bad channel, Monday at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for my next live stream. All right. Thanks for joining all, and I'll see you next week. Laters.